Okay, so we're getting, all right, I am live. So far nobody's joined yet, so I'm going to just do a little setup here. Let's save that. Nope. All right. Okay. All right, some people have joined. Hi. I am getting set up. Like I said, there's going to be a little growing pains here. I am trying to get it to where you can see what I'm doing. I have my iPad on a stand, so every once in a while I'll kind of point it down so you can see what I'm doing. And just bear with me while I get all these little technical things worked out and figured out. And hopefully as we go through, oh gosh, you can see all my mess up there. I've got a snap press. Oh, I've got all sorts of things. That snap press from when I used to do cloth diapers. Maybe I can find a way to use it. Okay, so welcome. We have a few people joining. Feel free to ask questions as I go along, and I'll kind of start with a more formal intro in just a second. Just 1 second, I'm going to grab a drink. Okay, well, welcome. My name's Christy Fincher, and I own Purple Daisies Quilting. And I'm so excited that you all are joining me. Already it says 15 people are watching. I'm sure they'll come and go. Sometimes when I'm watching live videos, my kids holler at me and they need me, so I have to leave. But so feel free if life calls to you and you need to go attend to something. I'm going to post this video on my page so that it will be available to anybody anytime. And so you don't have to worry about not missing anything. I know how that goes. Right now my kids are outside on the trampoline. We'll see how long that lasts. Hey Sherry. And hopefully they'll get along and not come in screaming and fighting. And fingers crossed. I mean, I have 2 brothers. I'm the oldest of 3, and we used to fight constantly, whether my parents were home or not. So fingers crossed. So I'm going to share today some tips and tricks and demos on how I use glue basting to piece for all. I'm sorry, I got distracted by, sorry, my ADD kicked in for a second and there's people popping in and saying something, so I apologize. So I'll get back into it. I use glue basting for piecing pretty much all of my quilts, whether I'm appliquing, if I'm doing clothing, I use it all the time. And I'm going to do a few little things to share with you, and hopefully you'll get some ideas and find some ways that you can use the same techniques for your own quilting. I am a big supporter and advocator, is that even? I advocate for finding tips, tricks, tools, things that you can use that you can apply in your own way. Take what works for you, leave the rest. But the video's here. If something comes to you later and you're like, you know, what she said really made a lot of sense, but I can't remember exactly what it was, I'm going to go back and watch the video, and I'll be there to help guide you. You can pause me, you can rewind me. My tone of voice never changes. I won't even use your full first name and middle name, you know, if it takes a little extra time. So you can just take your time and walk through it at your pace. So one of the first things I'm going to share with you is just a very, very simple 4-patch block. This is actually going to go into a quilt of my own, so I figure might as well work on some things that I'm going to end up using. And on the back, that's what I'm going to show you how to do as well, or spinning those seams. So it's like a little bonus. Glue basting and spinning seams, and look how nice those match. If you've never gotten nicely matched points and it drives you crazy, but you would really like to, I'm going to help you out with that. Again, take it at your own pace and use what works for you. It looks daunting and very, very particular. I actually get asked a lot, like, are you really extra fussy? Are you super fussy? I am a little fussy with my own work. I'm never fussy with other people's work because everybody's on their own path. They like certain things, they don't like certain things. I do legitimately have ADD. Didn't find out till I was an adult. But having this calms me down so much that if it were mismatched, that's what my brain would focus on. And it would drive me crazy. So I find ways to make my brain happier. If it doesn't bother you, then that's not a big deal. You know, just find what works for you. All right, so I'm going to get started with these little 4-patch first. I'm going to readjust the camera so that you can see that. So give me just a little patience and grace with that while I get it going. I'm going to scooch my machine and move the iPad. All right. So if you guys can give me a little feedback, thumbs up, or, sorry, I've got to move this charging cord. Thumbs up or some hearts or anything that says, or thumbs down if you can't see this well. So if you can see it well, let me know. Try and adjust my clothes so it doesn't look too weird. All right, so everybody good? All right, so again, this is kind of what we're going for, is this 4-patch. Let me scooch this up. Maybe that will be even better. Okay. You know, I'm going to find one quick thing. Hold on. Use a box here to prop this up so it's up a little bit higher. I feel like you might, oh, see, that's a little bit better, I think. You can see it one sec. Ooh, you're going for a ride. Am I upside down? All right, sorry, technical difficulties. It did not want to do that. Okay, so that will do. I think that's better because it's up a little bit higher. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you for your patience. And oh, I love this. I have people coming from Wisconsin and Canada. See, without this, I couldn't reach all of you like this. So this is wonderful. Oh, and Jonna. Hi, Jonna. Okay, so we'll start with this couple simple 4-patch blocks. I am just doing a little random. Some of my favorite new fabrics. These are ombre blooms. Aren't they beautiful? These are in that same line of ombre fabrics by V & Company. If you're not familiar, look how beautiful they are. Oh, I love them so much. See, they ombre from dark at the salvages to light in the middle, and then it repeats back down to the salvage. And I do have, I'm taking pre-orders for these, so just if you need anything for some projects, you know, we're all hanging out in the house and hopefully staying nice and safe. I know I didn't really touch on that. I kind of just jumped right in. I feel like maybe we can just chat about that toward the end and see how everybody's doing, and I can share a little bit about what I'm doing here. So let's get started with these 4 patches and pull these back so you could see it better. So basically, I'm laying this out, and just for fun, that's how it's going to end up looking. Okay, it's just the magenta, and then iris, and indigo, and mauve, just for fun. This is not a part of a project, so this is just for practice. I highly recommend finding things like this just from scraps and practicing. When you can practice without a project in mind, there's so much less stress and worry about getting it right, making it perfect. So just practice, find some scraps, and you know what? Sometimes it's the practice pieces that even turn out better because you're not so worried about it. So I am first going to introduce, for those who haven't seen what I use for glue basting, I use Elmer's washable school glue, and it is, make sure it's washable, not the glue all that says new, stronger, hold, because that's really not good on fabric because it just doesn't wash out very well. This washes out really nicely, even through all of the process that we're going to do today. And then I have the microfine glue tips, which I manufactured. They come in packaged just like this, and you get 2 in a package. And those are on my website as well. I also use it for permanent glue, like liquid stitch. And I use it, when I use it with liquid stitch and the toppers fit right on top of that bottle, I use it for glue basting in zippers or anything where you might use some of that tape that doesn't come out. I use the liquid stitch instead. Additionally, I have empty bottles that you can use for the glue if you like. So those are available. I know some places it's harder to get the glue, or you want to use maybe the Rose Art glue, but these tips don't fit on that bottle. So it's nice to have something to pour it into. So we're going to get started. My glue's a little low, so just be patient while I shake it on down. And I'm going to draw a fine line, so if you can see that, a really fine line close to the salvage, or close to the cut edge. So about 1/8 of an inch in. The seam allowance is going to be at 1/4, so we're not going to be sewing through that at all. And then on the second piece, so see, I can do an assembly line style too. You could set up an entire pressing surface filled with your matches and just glue, and then match. And so this will go right sides together and just tapped in place. Oh no, this is too big. So you know what I'm gonna do? Split the difference. I don't know which one is too big or too small, and actually I didn't do that on purpose. Here, I have a ruler, so let's check. Oh, you know what? The magenta one is too big. Let's double check on the other way too. Alright, so the magenta one is too big, so I'll just need to trim that down before I sew it. So I'll just move it back over here, and I'll trim that side off before I actually match everything up. Then I'll match these up, and next I'm going to use my hot dry iron. It's just a little steam fast. I love this iron. I wish it didn't make it, it's backwards to me. Is it backwards to you all too? To where, you know, it's like reading from a, you know, in a mirror or something. So just heat set that. Just takes a couple seconds to heat set. Oh, sorry. That box was on my cord. Let's get you back in position here. All right. Okay, I think we're set again. So now they're heat set and they're ready to sew. Now when they're heat set, they're prepped and they're not going to come apart. When you heat set that, the glue dries really fast. You can leave it to dry, but I usually don't, because, oh, thanks, Jonna, for letting me know it is backwards, but you all get it, I think. Hopefully it's not too much of an issue. And it will wash out. Plus, you're not sewing through it. And even if you did, it's dry. So there's no gumminess at all. Sewing through fusibles is going to gum up a needle on a machine far before using this kind of glue being heat set. So this one's ready and this one's ready, and you could prep a whole bunch of these before going to sew them, and then you know which side to sew as well. So I'm going to move over to my machine right here. Let's see if we can move the camera, make it portable. Oh, there we go. That's not too bad at all. Huh, that's not too bad. Is that all right? Thumbs up if that's good. Yes, it does. Claudia just said, I love that it eliminates pinning. Yes, I haven't even mentioned that part yet. It does eliminate the need for pins in most cases. This is ready to go. Especially when my kids were littler, they would come up to my work table, they'd mess with stacks of things, and it is nice that without the pins in it, I don't have to worry about pins falling out and things becoming unmatched. I could leave these for a day or two or a month, however long, until I get back to that project, and they're still ready to go. So now I'm going to go to the machine, and in order to get this, something has to happen. So if you see here, that's the join, and it's open here. So in order to get that opening, you can do a couple of different things. I'm going to show you my preference first, and then I'll also tell you the other option. So my preference is to sew a scant 1/4 inch, and I'm going to start at an equidistant. My geometry teacher would be so proud. Equidistant down from the needle and over from the edge, the raw edge of the piece. So it'll be equidistant. Just be consistent. My scant 1/4 inch might not be your scant 1/4 inch. So just whatever you decide to do, just be consistent. And I'm going to drop my needle down, and it's up just a little there. All right, and then I'm going to start sewing. I do have my machine set for a 2 stitch length. That's my preference for piecing. And I'm just going to do 2 stitches, 1 or 2 back stitch. You can do a lock stitch. You can do any type that your machine does. And then go on down. I'm going to stop in the same place that I started that equidistant spot. Especially if this edge is going to spin also. If it's not, you could just sew off the edge. And then I'll just lift it up and put in my next one. This, for those that just like to just sew right to the edges, you can certainly do that with this technique. I know this takes just a little bit of extra time, but it really makes a huge difference in the end. And it gets pretty quick. I'm talking and doing it, and when I'm not talking and sewing, I can get this done pretty fast. So then I'll just clip my threads, and now we'll give this a quick press. So let me just move this over a smidge. So I always press and set my seams. For those that haven't done that, what it does is it helps to flatten out the seams so you don't get, you prevent ripples. If you've ever had any rippling along your seam when you've sewn a piece, sewn a block, like wondering how that happened, and you just try to press the heck out of it to get those ripples out. Usually it's because when you're feeding your machine, it kind of stretches out your fabric a little bit. So setting your seam with your thread helps lock those stitches in place, and it helps put that fabric back in its place. So next we'll go ahead and press the fabrics. I'm here going to press quote unquote to the dark side. Really they just need to be opposite. So one to the right and one to the left. That's all, just opposites. So you can see here that they are pressed in the opposite direction. And now, we'll clip that off. We'll get the glue again and just glue straight across where the two are going to join those 2 rows. So I'm not putting much, just enough. And then we'll nest those seams, and starting from the center, can you see that? Can everybody see that? Starting from that center, you can feel that they're nice and nested, and then go out to the edges. Starting at the center rather than starting at one of the edges will make sure that your seam intersection is nice and nested and matches. If you start out here on the edge, especially for a really long border or multiple rows that are joined in a bigger block, you could offset that intersection. When instead of offsetting this part, offsetting this part's no big deal. This is going to end up in the seam allowance anyway, so if it's a little bit off, no big deal. But I'd rather this match than this match, because it just makes that intersection so nice. So I'll heat set really quick and then go back to my machine. And if this is a row on a big block or a quilt that's not going to intersect, you could just go from end to end. But since this is a block that could be in with something else, I'll just go ahead and start that 1/4 inch down. My back stitching, and then I'm going to just sew through that intersection, no stopping or starting there. move you back over. And then we'll set that seam again and clip the threads. I have friends who like to clip threads at the end, clip threads at the beginning, or, you know, as they go. I'm a thread clipper as I go kind of sewer. So that's my preference there. All right, next is that seam spinning. Sorry, I mixed up those words. So I just pull that apart right there because that opening, not cool. Now the other thing you can do is when you lay it down, it'll open up there as well. You see that all right? And then I do press from the front. Sometimes I'll get my little iron and kind of push down that intersection on the back just to make it flat. And then from the front, I like to press so those creases here that I'm pressing don't create a fold. Have you ever had that little fold happen on the front side and it shrinks your block up? That usually happens from pressing from the back. So go ahead and press from the front. I kind of feel with my fingers, just gently, so I don't get any folds. And then it's all done. And we have a nice, beautiful intersection where all four match really, really nice. And the back looks lovely. And then I'm ready to trim it up. So if I were going to go ahead and put this into a quilt block, I would go ahead and trim this to 4.5 inches. Because each one of these were 2.5, so after they're sewn, they would make a 4.5 inch block. I can show that real quick if you like. So when I go to trim that, I start from the center and I go out. So the center of a 4.5 inch block would be 2.25. So I align the 2.25 measurement right at the center, rather than trying to find a line over here. That way it keeps my intersection right in the center, and it's just a simple little thing you can do that helps to really true up and square your blocks nicely. And then just trim off. That didn't really have much to trim. And then rotate it around and then align it at 4.5. Here and here. And double check that the 2.25 is aligned. And then go ahead and trim off. See, now I can trim off that section that was way too big, and then trim off those. Now it is ready for any sort of a quilt block. All right. What do y'all think? Look, that turned out pretty great. And it can be matched with any other 4.5 inch block if you're doing just a square, or you're making, say you're making a some sort of star block and this is the center, or it's a corner. Then your next blocks that might have flying geese or half square triangles could fit, excuse me, could match right up along that side of the block. Or it could be a row, or it could go into a board, or it can do all sorts of great things. Okay, so how about that the other way I was telling you about? I have that all ready for you. So these little guys here, let me see. Okay, so on a quilt that I am making, I am strip piecing. So here's my strips. When I cut these up, they will end up making 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangle strips that will be basically these. And then I will piece them together into 4 patches. But when you do this kind of thing, you can't really stop and start in order to get those seams to spin, right? You gotta just sew straight down. And I glue baste these too. This is great to glue baste, because you can just glue baste the whole sucker together from end to end and just sew it without having to pin it or trying to keep it matched up as you're going. So I have a question. Do you give your strip, do you glue? Yes, so that's what I was just saying, Leanne. I do glue baste these before I sew them, and it makes a huge difference. I can just speed right through sewing these. It's wonderful. So going back to those little guys, let me change the angle again. So we'll glue base these just the same as we did the others and position them so they nest, meaning that one seam goes one direction and the seam goes the opposite. My glue needs to come on down. Got a little plug. So sometimes the glue bottle gets a little plugged at the top. You probably just saw I just pulled on it and that came out. So toss it over my shoulder like some salt, and now it should work just fine. Oh, so learning, this is a little teachable moment. So my glue got a little plugged up. So this is going to happen from time to time. I wish I could get it to focus on it a little bit better. Okay, so what I do when this gets plugged up and it doesn't start flowing from just pulling the plug out is I get a little straight pin. Don't push the glue in there, and don't plug this up with a straight pin, because the straight pin will rust because the glue is water-based. It will turn brown. It's terrible. Let me see. This is an example of a student's glue. They brought it to class and said, "What did I do wrong?" They used a different tip, which, you know, you can use what you've got, but she put a metal pin in it, and oh my gosh, oh, that's crazy. Look at this. This literally just happened. The top of the T-pin just broke off, and the pin's in there because it rusted it all the way through. That's craziness. But you can see the glue just turns all brown and gross. So don't put pins in it. It's nasty. I use, let me see if I can find one. You know, when you go shopping, when we used to be able to go shopping, do you remember those days? And we'd get clothes that had price tags on them. I mean, we could still shop online and get clothes that have price tags on them. So this is a price tag hanger, and I actually include these with the packages of tips, and then that's how you can plug it up. You just put it in the tip and then leave it, and it keeps it from plugging up. Okay, so back to the teachable moment. So let me put the camera down. That worked a little bit better. Give the bottle a really good squeeze, and then just the tip of the pin goes in, and then you can pull out the plugged up spot, and then it should help it flow freely again. But for some reason it doesn't want to do that today. There it is. Alright, let's move on. Sorry about that, technical difficulties. There, now it's on. See, I got it out that time. There's all the plug. Ugh. Alright. I have to let some air in. That's all. Alright. Okay, now I've got it all set. Again, just a little bit goes a long way with that glue, all the way down from end to end. Sometimes I'll skip just that first little 1/4 inch or so, just then I don't have to release the glue at those intersections. Alright, and make sure that nests and matches, and then heat set. And then over here at my machine again, this particular block will intersect on the quilt that it's going to go in, so I'm going to start at that 1/4 inch down and back stitch, and then go straight through the intersection. Alright, take it on out. Clip, clip. Alright, bring it back over and set my seam here. Now, here's that second option when you have to, of course. So you can see I have the stitches here that are preventing this from opening up very easily. So basically, don't clip them, just pull them out. Clipping them short will create a hole. Pulling them out will stop them at that seam intersection. So I have Claudia just said, I don't have my tips on when finish. I put Elmer's. Yeah, definitely do that. That's a great alternative. She takes her tips off and then puts the Elmer's topper back on. Absolutely. I'm in Arizona and it tends to be pretty dry here, so the glue generally just drains really well, but in more humid climates, it doesn't do that as nicely. So that's a great alternative. So now that I've just pulled the stitches, so you can see here how the stitches are just pulled, it will release and open up. Just release that little bit of glue and then we can spin it. And I'm just going to flatten out that intersection and then press from the front. Helps prevent any of those creases that shrink up my block, and it's ready to go. So if when I'm ready to put this in the quilt, I'll probably just trim it, make sure it fits and it's the right size. All right, so what do y'all think? Think that might be anything you would try out and use in your quilting? I really hope so. The tips are a wonderful tool. There are other options for tips. These are my favorite. I do not like the metal tips. The metal tips can plug really badly and can be very, very hard to clean. These are nice because they just go right on top of the Elmer's, so you can buy bottles of this, you know, especially before school starts. It's really inexpensive. I always carry it in my store as well. Just a little side note, the label on the back needs to be blue. If the label on the back is black, for some reason, the neck is narrower and my tips don't fit. So that's when this is really helpful. But if the label is blue, you're all set. Am I going to show doing star points or matching triangles? I am going to show some triangles, yes. So that's next. We're going to just jump right into half square triangles. The tips are available on my website, which is, here, let me see if I can comment and put in my website. So it's www.purpledaisiesquilting.com. All right, there you go. There's my website. It's also on my page, so you can shop right from my page on the Facebook page as well. So that should get you there. You can find the glue tips under supplies and glue, the subcategory glue basting, or you can just go to the search bar up on the top left on my website and just search glue tips and you'll find them. When I'm looking for stuff on my own website, I often just go to the search bar because I can find it pretty fast. Okay, so let's move on to some half square triangles. So one of the most common ways to make half square triangles are just with two squares to get two half square triangles out of it. There's a lot of methods. I have a whole half square triangle class that I teach as well, but we'll go ahead and just do one for this little demo. And gosh, we're doing good on time. It's only 10:35. My kids, I have three, and one's in 4th, 7th, and 9th grades, and their teachers have been amazing during this quarantine. And our district was one of the first in the state to close. And fortunately, we were on spring break. So they're working on schoolwork right now, and their teachers are doing meetups with them kind of like this. And my youngest has one at 11 with her teacher, and my other daughter has one at 12. So if they pop in and say, hey Mom, I need the link, I'll pop out and help, but I'll be back. So, but hopefully they'll be able to find it and work on that. We kind of prepped for that beforehand, but just a disclaimer. All right, so let's go ahead and get started on these guys. So half square triangles, and I'm going to get a ruler and a pencil. This is my favorite pencil. It's a Bowen, but they stopped making this. It's a 3-in-1, so it has 3 colors of lead. So there's pink, and there's gray or silver, and then there's white. So now I carry the same pencil by Sewline, Sewline. Same with, they make the glue sticks and stuff. So it's the same pencil, same colors of lead, same sizes of leads, but it is my favorite. So I'll get my pencil and just down the diagonal on the background piece. It doesn't matter which piece you draw on. This is just my preference. Just draw a straight line. And then on the other piece, so this one would be wrong side up. This one with the right side up, take your glue and kind of eyeball down the diagonal center. Let me start down here and go up. Just down the... It wants to cause me trouble today because I'm doing this. Normally it's not causing me any trouble. Let me see. There we go. So just down the diagonal center. It can just be eyeballed. You don't have to be exactly in the middle, just so you're not off too much, because we're going to sew on either side of that line. So we'll match that up. It's another great way to use glue basting, and then heat set that. So instead of using pins, you can just prep a whole bunch of these. Oh, Claudia asked, where am I in Arizona? I'm in Tempe. So, which is borders Phoenix. I'm about 15 minutes from the airport. So then we're ready to sew, and this would just get sewn on one side of the line at a scant 1/4 inch, and then at the other side of the line. So I'll move on over. Now this is a 5-inch square. I neglected to say that. 5-inch square making 4.5-inch half square triangles. There are formulas for what size to make these all over the internet. Debbie, or not Debbie, what's her? Bonnie Browning. I think that's her name. No, not Browning. Bonnie, oh, it just escaped me. She has some great formulas. If somebody thinks of her name and says it, but you can find them if you Google half square triangle formulas. And if I had prepped a whole a bunch of these beforehand, I could just keep going and sew. But since I didn't, we'll just trim that, bring it back around, line it up. I do like to start sewing with my needle down. It's my preference, but can't always do that. All right. And pull that out and trim. And trim. And then we'll come back over. See, you can see how this, can you see here how there's a little wobble in it? Do you see the little wobble here? That's what I'm talking about, that setting your seam will prevent. So if I were just to cut this right now, I'd get ripples right along those seam lines. So if I just, yes, Bonnie Hunter, thank you, Beverly. Oh, that relieved my mind so much. Bonnie Hunter, she's wonderful, super smart, and really helpful. But she has great formulas for all sorts of basic traditional blocks on her website. So that's ready to trim or to cut in half. So I'll just move that on over. And we'll just cut this super quick, just right down the center. And now these are ready to press and trim. So when I press these, I do often press to the dark, almost always. That just, or at least away from the background. Say my background is dark. The reason for that is a couple of things. Number one, when I quilt this, because the colored part of it is pressed to the side, when it's quilted, this will kind of be in the foreground and this will get pushed to the background. So it gives it a little bit more dimension, or a little bit more, gives it more attention rather than hiding it. So that's one nice thing you can do just with pressing, is to enhance the look, or what's the word I'm looking for? The design element. So if you're making a really beautiful star out of your half square triangles, and you want your background to really kind of just sink into the background, away from the foreground, you can densely quilt that, and then more lightly quilt this, and it will really pop up, almost giving you the look of trapunto without even using trapunto. Oh, my husband is watching. Hi. Great, now I'm going to be nervous. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, so if I'm going to go ahead and use this in a quilt, I would trim it down to 4.5 inches. But I have some already ready that I'm going to show you piecing with. So here is an example of some half square triangles, matching them up. And you can see on the back how the seams are all nested, and you can see, oh, thank you, Luann. You can see the seams being spun on the back as well. So I have a few things here to show you. So this little piece, I probably was just prepping this for a class sample probably 5 or 6 years ago, and these are still just glued. This seam is sewn. Nope, 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 they're all glued. So it's been a long time. There's no discoloration at all, but I could just go and sew them now, and I didn't have to worry about pins being in them. I could also just pull them apart and reuse them in something else if I thought, hey, I'm kind of done with that. Again, these are just little class samples that I do when I'm teaching, just to show different ways of putting your half square triangles together and matching your intersections. So let's give that a go. Here's some little squares, and I've got 2 matched right here that make like a flying geese kind of shape. So you could use this technique with making flying geese, regular flying geese, or with half square triangles that turn into flying geese. So let's make some here with, we'll just match these up. How about a little, somebody mentioned star, so how about if, let's see, so if I was going to use these to make some sort of star, and let's say we had, just for pretend, a 4.5 inch square, which there, and we're adding on to have a star. You know, kind of like a Ohio star or something of that nature. We can match these up first and then piece them together with that little piece. I don't know if that's the right size when you measure it. Oh, it is. So we'll just do that. That'll work. So let's glue base these real quick. So I'm doing the same thing. Let me pull this back. When I do video demos for YouTube that aren't live, my camera is in a different position, and that's my habit. So I'm sorry I keep putting it there. So I'm just doing a little bit of glue. I know you can't see it great because it's white on white, but I'm doing the same thing I did before. And then just match up. Now when you're doing half square triangles and matching up, what I'm doing here first to making sure this matches is I want these seams here to lie on top of each other. If your blocks were trimmed and they aren't the exact same size, aligning your seam lines, aligning those, instead of worrying about this, will get your intersections to match. You'll get your points to match here rather than them being off because you're matching out here. Does that make sense? So I always align this first and then match that up and then heat set it. That way I know that those intersections will come together. So let's do the same thing here. The little glue, and then lay them on top of each other, and then match up. And you know, when you're just starting out and doing these little techniques, it does feel a little time consuming, but once it becomes something you just do and it's second nature, it really isn't any extra time at all. And you'll be so happy with your results, it won't even to start with. So let's go ahead and just sew these up real quick. And one thing I love about these is this seam line right here. See the diagonal seam line? Oh, sorry, white just gets overexposed so easily. Your needle will land right on the seam line, so you know that you're starting in the right spot at a 1/4 inch down. So here's my seam line. So right here's where I'm going to start sewing, and then I'm going to come toward myself. So right here on that seam line. Get my needle up. And see, you just can land. Again, I'm sorry, it's overexposed. Let's see. Can you see it a little bit better like that? Turn the light off. But now I have to sew, so I have to turn it back on. Okay, so we'll just backstitch. Okay, mental note, white overexposes really easily. So I'll use a different color next time. All right, let's go to the next one. So you just pick up, go to the next one. Now I'm starting at the other end on this one for no particular reason, except that was the orientation it was in. So when I stop, I'll stop at that seam line. All right, and then we'll just trim them up. All right, those are ready. And then we'll set those seams. You can see again that they are a little ripply. And then we'll set the seam. And now they're nice and flat. Makes a difference. Okay, so let's press these open to the side. Now, there are only certain times where I press my seams open, and it's not all the time, because you get a stronger seam when you're pressed to the side. So you can see how that little intersection matches right down there. What do you think? Did pretty good. Not bad for talking and sewing at the same time. And then okay. So if I were to join these, let's say I wanted to do a design kind of like that, I could just glue base down and then join them just the same as I did for that 4-patch, because essentially now this is a 4-patch. It just has half square triangles in it. If I'm going to make some sort of a, say, a star block like an Ohio star, I can now join it. Let me make sure. I could join it with what would be the center block here. This would be a really big center for an Ohio star, but it absolutely works. So I'm thinking if I should join that or just move on to the next part. So what I really want to show you is joining this like that, so you can see how that bulky intersection gets managed when you're glue basting and nesting seams. Do you guys want to see that? Thumbs up if you want to see that. Hearts, likes, anything to let me know. Wow, 40, you guys, I was not expecting 40, now 47 people. Thank you so much for coming and joining me. This has just been wonderful. I really appreciate it so much. I keep telling my husband I'm going to do it. And then I finally decided I am really good if I have imposed timelines or a deadline. So I imposed it upon myself because, well, I'm my own boss, so I can do that. So I think it helped a lot to just say, hey, I'm going to do it, and that's going to be the day. So let's go ahead and do this then. We'll just join these two. And Just draw glue right along the edge, and then we'll nest. So when we nest this, again, center out, even on a big long border. When you have intersections on a big long border, start with the center and then move out to the edges, and then keep like making sure to match those intersections as you go. And you can ease in as needed. So that's matched. I can feel that's nice and nested. Can you see that? I want it to focus on it. Can you see that? All right, good enough. All right, so we'll heat set that. And then we'll back over to the sewing machine. There. Oh, that's kind of a good position. Again, I apologize for the overexposure. Lesson learned. And then we'll just start, just in case I would be matching this to something else, we'll just start at that 1/4 inch down. Now I'm sewing straight through the intersection. No need to stop or start or back stitch or anything. Alright, back over here. And then I'll go ahead and set that seam again. And then from the back side first, I'm going to take a look. Oh, see, now I kind of made a mistake. So I wasn't paying attention because I didn't have a clear goal in mind. Now look at my seams on the back. This is not ideal at all. I was not paying attention. This is not ideal. And you're probably thinking, well, what's the problem? It looks fine to me. Do you see how this seam here goes this way, which is for me to my right, and this one also goes right? I wanted this to spin in a pinwheel, so I would want this one to go to the right, but now these don't do that. Then this one does, and this one does, and this one will, but that one won't. So when something like that happens, I have a couple choices. I could go and unsew. I could pick this out and kind of push this over, which really is the ideal thing to do, or the quick easy fix for it is to take your scissors and right on the back near your sewing line, clip up to that sewing line. Can you see what I just did? And then pull that out. And now I can push it the other way. Because trying to open that up, it isn't going to open. So you can see here, with these going in those directions, it's not going to open. It will fight it. So we gotta release it so it doesn't fight. So now this will be all going. You can see now I can get these all going in the same direction in a pinwheel all the way around. So that's really important. Otherwise, if I got to here, this is what would happen. It wouldn't open up, right? And then it would like do this weird overlappy, foldy, awkwardy thing. Oh, I'm glad that it was valuable. It is. I think making mistakes, everybody makes mistakes. I do this all the time. Heck, I do this for a living. But I wasn't paying attention. I just was going with it and, made a mistake. But it's a really great way. You can fix stuff like doing this on all sorts of things. So and it's really good to have some sort of sharp scissor with a dull point to be able to do something like this, because if it's got a really pointy point, it could poke through your seam and make a hole, so you don't want that. So these are Tula's scissors. I wish I carried them in my store, but I don't. My other favorites are these. They have a nice dull point also, and it will do the same job. So, except these are newer and much sharper. I need to get those sharpened. Alright, so I'll just pull that thread out. And if you get any fibers left in the stitches, just pull it out. And now it is now it'll spin. Now it'll do what I wanted it to do. So we'll just release the glue on those so that it goes the way I want it to. There we go. See? There it is, right there. Oh, you can't see it, sorry. So now they're all going the way I want, and now that bulky, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8 different seams coming together in that center. And they're all just fine. So I'm going to take my iron and just push it. If you wanted to, if you had something heavy, you could hammer it down. And then these all, so this one still didn't go, there it is. So from the front, I'll just make those seams go the other way. Okay. Now what also I'm noticing happened because I messed with that is my intersection didn't match very good at all. Now that happened because originally these were going the other way. So do I want to fix it for this? I don't need to, but I really want to show you guys how well that works for matching up your seams. So I might want to fix it for you. I don't know. What do you think? I could also just do another one. Let's see, I have extras. Here we go. See? Oh, look, I sewed one up really fast. How about that? Actually, this one has the same mistake. Huh. I must have done that a couple of times. These are old, from way old classes. Well, here's one that is done. So you can see that intersection, and then it pressed. So we'll just magically pretend that that one was the one that I did. How about that? All right. So sorry about the little side mistake there. Hold on, my daughter's asking me a question. Huh?
Girl Scout meeting.
It's at 5 tonight.
Okay.
It's one for both of you, and Nora. Okay. All right, we're back. They have my daughters have a Girl Scout meeting on Zoom tonight, so they are going to. She was asking me about that. Okay, so how about we do some binding strips with glue basting? What do you think? I think it would be fun. I'm not sure if my husband's still watching me or not. He's at work. He still has to go to work every day. He's not home in the living room watching. He's a physical therapist at the VA hospital, and so he still goes every day. Where I make sure he might think I'm being fussy, but I just want to make sure he's safe. So he wears his gloves and mask and all that business. So let's see. How about some binding strips? I cut a few strips. These are just 2.5 inch strips. My normal binding strips are 2 1/4, but I did this size so I can reuse them for making blocks later on, because I don't make 2 1/4 inch strips for blocks ever. All right, are you ready? Are you ready for some binding strips? This is one of my favorite ways to use glue basting. So we'll go ahead and I'll move the camera again, and we'll just use 2 different colors because, well, you can see it really well. Again, this is that ombre bloom because it's like my favorite new fabric. This one's plum, and this one's that popsicle pink. I love them, and they're just so beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and start here. Are you ready? All right, here we go. So I'm going to get one of my binding strips. I haven't even cut the end off, and I am going to, wrong side up, really important. Then I'm going to fold this to about a 45-degree angle, and I'm just going to have this overlap. Can you see that pretty well? Or how about if I turn it sideways? Is that better? Thumbs up if that's better. Trying to figure out what is best here. That's pretty good, isn't it? Alright, so about a 45-degree angle. You can eyeball it, or if you need to, get a ruler and just measure. You can either measure that this is 90 degrees right here, or that this is at 45. Again, I got a D in geometry. My geometry teacher would be so proud. So press that to get your crease. So you just have a nice crease there. And you're going to get your glue, and right along that crease, you're going to draw your fine line of glue. Okay. Alright, and then you're going to get your next strip, whatever strip that is. I'm using the 2 different colors just so you can see it really well. Then we're going to overlap, and it's really important to keep it going straight. So I am keeping it straight, matching up here, and then that the folded point, which is right here, you can see it. So this point, we're at that point right here, just to keep it going straight through. And then you're going to heat set that. Okay, and then you go down to your next one, and you'll overlap and fold back to the 45-degree angle. Now, normally I would make my binding strips at the full width of fabric, but doing this way just helps me give you a better visual. So I'll put the glue along that crease, really close to it, and then we'll do the same thing here. Keep it going straight. And then we'll do this last one. See, the repetition is, I think it's really helpful. And you know, as I'm going to ask questions, I can see when you ask me stuff up on here, and I'll answer. And then we'll do glue here. And again, I'm doing wrong side up the whole way down. And then heat set. Alright, now this is magic. This is my favorite part. How are we going to sew this thing? You know, when you do these normally, you're like putting this one with that one, and you're trying to like sew across here, and did I put it the right way? Are they going to match up and be straight, or am I going to have a 45, 90 degree? What? I don't know what's going to happen. Alright, I have a quick question. What kind of glue is that? Again, we'll go back, because I did get a lot of people joining since I talked about the glue. It's Elmer's washable school glue with the microfine tips that I sell in my store. Here are the tips. They come in a package of 2, microfine. You get 2 in a package. And then they fit right on top of the Elmer's washable. Make sure it's washable. And that it has the blue label on the back, not black, because the black labels for some reason have a narrower neck. I, again, don't know why. But it was a nightmare when I discovered that. But I do have these refillable bottles available as well that you can pour the glue into and use. And they're kind of nice to squeeze. Okay, so let's get back to my favorite part. Now what do we do here? How are we going to sew this? Well, remember how I made that crease? When we made that crease is your sewing line. So we open that up just like this. See the crease? That's where you're going to sew on each and every one. So you don't have to guess where to sew, and it's perfectly matched up. Alright, so let's do one over here. So I'll move you back over to the machine. Alright. And we'll just start and just land your needle right on top of the crease. If you can't see the crease for some reason while you're sewing, use a little pencil like this and just draw a couple of lines as you're going down if you can't see it. Some fabrics it's hard to see. And then we're just going to sew straight down right inside the crease. and then I can go up to my next part, pick it up, and just keep going. You can do all of your binding strips just like this. And then the next one, and just keep on going, and going, and going, and going. What do you think? And then once you have them all done, just go ahead and trim and clip your threads. Now the next step is, on back, is what do we do with this? With this part here. So we need to trim that down. Oh, Amy, thank you. I'm glad that you like it. So the next thing we do, we have to release the glute. This is one place where I do press my seams open. This and mitered binding or mitered borders and other little things here and there. But here we do need to press our seam open. So we'll just open this up to release the glue. It just pops pretty easy, especially if you don't use a ton of glue. Then I'll get my scissors, my big scissors, and then I'm going to clip that toward that way to kind of just square it off, see? And then I'll trim this to about 1/4 of an inch, just eyeball it, and clip that off, and then we'll press that seam open. And then it's ready. What do you think? I mean, you can do miter joins like that on all sorts of things, where you just turn that corner over. You can do it even on a mitered border for a quilt of some sort. You know, you could do it from the front even, where, you know, you turn it this way. Let's say we're making a border around a quilt. You turn it that way, and then the other one could come out the other direction, and you can match them up. All right, so I would keep on going and just open this up, same thing, trim it, press it open it up, trim it, and press it open. And then when I am going to do binding, I do a double fold. There's lots of binding techniques, and then I would just give it a little spray of starch and then press that flat to make my actual binding strips for the quilt. Mom, sorry, I pressed out of it for a second. My mom, Sharon Shamber, she has a wonderful binding video on YouTube called Binding the Angel, and it walks you through this part, making the strips like this, plus everything from beginning to end for her wonderful binding technique, which is my favorite technique. Okay, I had a question. Do you ever use spray starch when pressing? All the time. Yes, all the time. I don't steam unless I absolutely have to, and when I do starch, say I am like this piece, before this would go into a quilt or into its block, I would actually starch it a little bit just to get it nice and flat. I much prefer starched fabric to sew with than floppy fabric. I don't want it so stiff that it's like cardstock, but you know, it's much easier to sew and press and cut starch fabric. For this video, I pre-prepared everything. I had already starched it because that takes a lot of time, and I didn't want to sit here with you guys on here and just sit and starching and talking. So I already had done that. But if you want, just real quick. So if I'm going to press this, so I'm going to just spray a little starch, just a little bit. You don't need a ton, and let it settle in. And I will often flip it over and press from the other side, so my iron will stay a little cleaner and I don't get flakes. You can also just let it settle in so that it doesn't evaporate onto your iron and make that sizzle sound. So, but that, it makes it so much nicer. So you could probably see how much nicer and flatter this looks now. Thank you. That was a great question. All right. You guys, this has been wonderful. It's 11:11. Make a wish. Well, here it's 11:11. Probably someplace else it's 12 or 1:11. 211. But I hope this has been helpful. Excuse me. I hope it's been really helpful to all of you who've been able to watch. Thank you, Jonna. And okay, Amy has a question. For humid areas, if we remove the glue tips, do you just rinse out the tips with water and let dry? Yeah, you can rinse it out. Here's a tip, just out of off of the thing, and from the both ends you can just run hot water through it. You don't necessarily have to use soapy water, but you can if you want to. And then I often will go and blow it through just so watery glue doesn't stay in the tip. But my go-to is to have my glue here and then just stick that in there, and then that will prevent it from plugging up. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. So how are you all doing with everybody being able to, it's all perspective, right? Stay home. I've worked from home for 15 years, so working from home is no different. There are times during the day where I feel totally normal, except that my kids are home. Thank you, Karen. I really appreciate it. But then there are times where it's like, holy crap, what is going on? I try and just stay busy and keep doing my business. I'm still shipping orders. I'm the only one that is handling any orders. I only have one assistant, and she just started with me a few months ago. So she's helping me from home when she can. She's helping me with some bookkeeping and other things that she can do from home. But she's got 4 kids of her own. And so I'm still packing and shipping orders, and hopefully post office stays funded and can keep functioning, because I depend on them, as most of us do. And you know, my kids are doing pretty good. Their teachers have been really wonderful, as I mentioned. Okay, quick question. Back to the glue. There's a question from Carol about what did I stick in the tip. These are price tag hangers. So I have purple ones and pink ones because that's what I buy to put in the packages of the glue tips, because they don't disappear in your piles of creativity like the clear ones do that come on most clothing. Just don't use a pin. As I showed earlier, it will rust your glue and turn it brown. So just something plastic. The price tag hangers work really, really well. Thank you, Diane. I will have it recorded as soon as I finish up the video. I'm going to save it, and then it will be on my Facebook page. So it'll be available in videos under on my Facebook page for my business. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Okay, going back to, so I know this is just a really unprecedented and crazy time right now, and I think I really appreciate you all joining me and us staying connected in the ways that we can. And my hope is, and my hopeful plan is to start doing some classes online where I can go deeper and with smaller groups. I mean, 50 of people joining me is amazing, but I'd also like to have a dedicated amount of time to work with a group that they can sign up for a class or do a quilt along of a pattern that I already have available, and hopefully be able to delve deeper like I do in in-person classes, but we're not able to do that right now. And then make that available as an additional thing for people who are interested. It would be paid. I wish I could do everything for free, and I love doing as much as I can for free. But something like that would be really a dedication of my time and my knowledge base and planning and of your time. I think that kind of value, you knowing that that is something that you committed to, that you paid for, makes it even more valuable to you. So thank you, Sandy. I really appreciate you coming. Darlene asks, what fabric am I using? This is Ombre Bloom by V & Co from Moda. So I do have it available in the stores, pre-order. I should be getting my shipments soon. You know, the shipments from various manufacturers are being taken on a case-by-case basis just because of this, situations in various states and stuff. So hopefully I'll have it soon, and but it's wonderful. I do have a little bit still in stock from my first round, so our second round is coming out. Oh, Mary, I would love that. I am going to put out information about classes online, and it would probably be through Zoom, but hosted inside of Facebook. I got the idea from my daughter taking a softball school class. So softball, she loves softball, and her team has had to stop practicing because parks have been closed, and and then there's the stay-at-home orders, so they can't gather and practice. So this group of coaches and former players started this thing called softball school, and we paid to join, and they bring all these coaches from like former UCLA head coach, coaches from all over, and players from all over to teach the girls different techniques for softball. And it's been amazing. And inside of the class on Facebook, they have units, and inside of the units you have different videos and different PDFs, and I did not know that was even a thing. So after watching that with her, I thought, hey, that's something I can do. I think you all would really enjoy it, and I think we could really make it something great. Another tool that even past getting through this COVID-19 quarantine, that will be so useful and helpful for quilters. I love teaching in person, but I can only reach 15, 20 people at one time in one location. If I offer something like they're doing that softball school, I could reach so many more people. So will I be, Jean asked, will I be showing how to use glue for applique? Yes, I also have videos on YouTube. So if you're interested in seeing some, I do have, if you head over to YouTube and you search Christy Fincher, you'll find a whole slew of my videos, including using glue basting for applique. So you can find that, and that's available for free. It is associated with a block of the month that I did last year and the year before. So I have 2 different block of the month. So those patterns are still available. If watching the video inspires you and you want to try out the pattern is online, and then you can go through each month's videos to make the different quilt blocks and everything. So thanks again, everybody, for joining me. I am going to finish up unless there's any last minute questions, and then I'll post this video onto my Facebook page so it's accessible for anybody in the future. Thank you all again, and you've been wonderful, and this has just been the highlight of my morning. And one last thing. Oh, thank you, Andy. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me. And sometimes when I'm here all by myself at home, I forget that all of you are out there, and that we all do mean so much to each other, even though we have to connect like this right now. So it's wonderful to get to do this and kind of get that feedback from you all that it is something you really enjoy and it's valuable to you. So I'm going to head off and go make lunch for my kiddos, and make sure that they're doing okay too. They've been so wonderful. I mean, they haven't even fought. They're working on school stuff or arts and crafts or other wonderful things. So thanks again, everybody. I will see you all again soon. Stay tuned. I'll post on my Facebook page. Sometimes I feel a little impulsive and might want to do a quick demo. I'm also going to try out doing Instagram videos, the Instagram live, and see how that format works for me compared to this. I have a ton of people over there as well. So I want to see what format kind of works, or maybe I can figure out how to do both. So I will see you all very, very soon. Happy sewing, happy quilting. Stay safe, stay healthy, wash your hands, and make sure to lotion up too. Mine have been really dry. So I will see you all